Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the True Life Podcast. I hope everybody's having a beautiful day. Hope the sun is shining. Hope the birds are singing. Hope the wind is at your back. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Detmering. Tonight, today, right now, we do not summon a guest. We invoke a storm, a feral force birthed at the crossroads where Blake's mad visions meet Watt's cosmic riddles, and the ferryman waits with a crooked grin or dripping with psychedelic fire. Alex Detmering is the alchemist who turns market logic into molten rebellion, who feeds fried locusts to his insatiable hunger for truth and tears through the polite fabric of civilization like a wolf at the throat of empire. He doesn't just strategize, he conjures sacred chaos, crafting exquisite designs in the shadows of collapsing pyramids, while whispering Shakespeare's ghost into the ears of gods and madmen alike. His mind is a battleground where character dissolves into myth, where every word is a lightning bolt aimed at the heart of the mundane, shattering the glass temple of conformity with a grin sharp enough to draw blood. Alex stands at the edge of reason and madness, where the Upanishads bleed into the wild hymns of the night, and Rumi's spinning dance becomes a war dance to unmake the dead world and birth a new dawn soaked in fire and blood. Alex, thank you for being here today. How are you?
Dude, I'm great. At some point, I would really like to get into how the hell you write these intros, because it is a mystery to me, and I'd like to know the answer to that. And also, I don't know how I'm possibly going to live up to the quality of your intro, but I'll try.
You know what? It's like a master plan, because I feel like I'm talking to like the leaders of tomorrow today. And when I look at it and I read these introductions, I know that in like 5 or 7 years from now, or maybe 15 or maybe 20, people like me, when I was younger, going to look back and be like, oh my God, that's Alex. Listen to this interview. Of course that's him. You know what I mean? So I want to be part of building this future. And like, I believe it, man. Like when I read your bio and I start researching the parable foundation and just see the level of communication that you're putting stuff out there, it's staggering. And I'm really impressed, man. So yeah, let's jump into this thing, man. Like, you know what? I thought we'd start off with the question, what question do people never ask you, but you wish they would?
Okay. That's a great question. And I'm going to turn it back on you.
Oh!
I'm going to turn it back on you. What question would you like to ask me that you don't think you can?
Woo! What are the most controversial topics in psychedelics and media right now?
Oh, you son of a gun.
You asked!
Okay. What are the most controversial topics in psychedelics and media right now? Oh, man. I think it's got to be the whole symposia thing, man, to be honest with you. That's probably the most controversial thing. And I'm pretty sure most of the people listening don't know what this is. And I'm not trying to be like some kind of experty guy, but for background, right? MAPS, the organization that everyone has heard of, has been trying to get MDMA for PTSD, approved by the FDA as a treatment for decades, 40 years, something like that, right? And it all looks good up until the last couple years. Just some stuff starts coming out that seems to like destabilize the chances of it actually happening, right? I think the first big thing is the first thing that most people became aware of and are still aware of to this day, and people bring up all the time, is the Power Trip podcast that NY Post put out probably in 2022. And it covers a few things, but one of the things it covers is the case of one of the clinical trial participants experienced abuse in relation to the MAPS trials. Part of it, what I'm saying right now is contentious, right?
Right.
But part of the abuse, some people contend, happened during the actual therapy itself. And then part of the abuse seemed to have happened in a relationship that occurred between, this is the abuse I'm talking about, is the trial participant and then the therapists that were administering the therapy during this trial, right? So part of it is arguably taking place during that, and then part of it takes place definitely afterwards, where the therapist and the patient get in a relationship, right? And so that coverage and that podcast is probably the first big thing that starts to shake the narrative that that MDMA is going to get legalized and legalized soon, right? And after that, just a bunch of other things start happening, and probably the next most important event is the FDA has this like public hearing. It's pretty rare, but it gets called to discuss like things that that can't, these things can get called to discuss, I guess, like, trials and it in process that are close to getting passed, right? So they have a public hearing, experts come on, and then some more doubt gets sowed in people's minds, because a lot of the people that they talk to are talking about all these kinds of problems with the trials, problems with the data, reports of abuse. The instance that was, as far as I remember, the instance that was covered in that podcast was brought up again during this public trial. And so people are like, oh shit. And this is brought up in June. If I remember correctly, this council meeting thing, if my terminology is wrong, I'm sorry, but this council meeting comes up in June. And then people are like, oh shit, what's going to happen now? And because for like years, right, Doblin's on Rogan, and everyone's like, this is in the bag, right? Every publication that you can think of is publishing like these glowing reviews, and I don't want to say puff pieces, but thumbs up, right? FDA, for the FDA is going to approve this. And in the last 6 inches, when they're almost in the end zone, all this shit starts happening. And what happens, right? I mean, you don't need me to tell you, right? It doesn't pass. So this, to like, what exactly happened here, to me, is the most controversial thing in psychedelics and in psychedelic media. And it's hard for me to even like discuss this now because it's an extremely complex issue, but fuck it, George, let's go, bro. Okay, let's go. So what's at play here? So here's what I think. This is my unvarnished opinion. Okay. All right. So I think that so behind the scenes of all of this shit for like years is a cohort of journalists that are working together to basically undermine the FDA trials. Now we'll get into their motivations and maybe the justification behind the motivations in a second, but that this is happening is pretty much a fact, right? So you can just follow the online paper trail, the people that helped put together with NY Post, the people that helped put together that podcast series, they are part of this group, right? The reason why there's even a council called or whatever to, discuss whether, the state of the FDA trials for MDMA, that was petitioned for and successfully called because of people that were part of this group, right? There's another review that's done by a well-known scientific body, highly critical of the state of the research of those trials. A lot of the evidence that critique was based on, or the critiques that are part of that review, are based on from these journalists. You just dig into it, right? And it's not like this is like a conspiracy theory, George. This is a conspiracy. And look, conspiracies can be justified, right? I'm not saying all, there's lots of conspiracies, right? A lot of whether or not a conspiracy is a bad thing or a good thing really depends on your moral outlook. But I'll be damned, George, you dig into this, and this is a no joke conspiracy. So what's at play here for me is a couple things. One is, I will be honest with you, I have an abiding and powerful love and appreciation for the work that the people at MAPS have done, for the work of Doblin and his and Rick Doblin and his entire crew. I'll tell you, man. I mean, MDMA therapy in particular, which I have done consistently over the course of 5 years. There is not a thing there isn't a thing, not a person. There's a person in my life that's changed me as MDMA therapy, and that's my wife. But there isn't a thing in this world that has been more influential in my life than MDMA therapy in teaching me how to open up my heart and like teaching me how to be courageous in ways when I wasn't. So like, and I would not have known about MDMA therapy. I would still probably be suffering and in straight up fucking hell, bro. If it wasn't for the fact that I found out about that and I did that. So that is in part I don't know if it's a bias, but it's definitely an appreciation that I have for them and what they've done because of the awareness they brought to it. Because I'm pretty sure there are probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of people that are like me, that if they hadn't found out about this, right, then they also would have suffered and worse, right, and worse. So that's part of what's at stake here, and that's part of why teasing apart what actually is going on here is so fucking hard, is because MDMA saved my life, right? And so it's very difficult to be totally objective about something that has been so profoundly helpful to you. So that I'll just acknowledge that on the front end. But the other side of that, and the part of this that I think made so that group, right, were either part of an organization called Symposia, which is a 501c3, according to their website. Last I checked, it's a 501c3 journalistic entity that's out to be kind of like a watchdog entity for the psychedelic world. I think that group was talking about something, and you could argue about how they were talking about it, but there is a kernel of truth to what they were talking about that that opened up the door for it to be as profoundly impacting as it was. And that kernel of truth, George, and I'll just tell you from the perspective of my own life, because I can't really speak for anybody else's. So there's another, is that psychedelics are very complicated. Psychedelic therapy is very, very complicated. And what you could go through as a result of doing psychedelics or doing psychedelic therapy is something where you can't really guarantee the outcome, and the intensity of it and the journey that you're going to go through is something that really you can't ever really consent to doing because of how fucking crazy it can get. Right. And so, and not all stories are happy stories, right? Not everyone goes through psychedelics and like, and is healed or have been in doing this over years. Right. And we can get into that in a bit, because I've talked to many of these people and interviewed these people and yada, yada, yada. Right. So, but what opened the door to Symposia, in my opinion, from my perspective, right, and their critique and the way that they're able to undermine the valiant efforts of all these psychedelic advocates, was the fact that there was a whole, I don't want to say shadow, honestly, of psychedelics that wasn't really being confronted or placed into the public eye in the way that it ought to have been. Right. And so here's like my story and where it weaves into this, just as a way of saying this is also, I think, true of many others.
Okay.
So I told you MDMA therapy helped change my life. Totally did. The catalyst for me using MDMA therapy was a psilocybin session. And in that psilocybin session, a repressed memory emerged that I didn't know how to deal with. And so I freaked the fuck out, dude. I freaked the fuck out. And latent mental illness, which had always been kind of like doing different things in my life, wasn't really aware of it, that emerged, and it just squeezed the fuck out of like my perspective, right? It was like a python, and my whole reality got, pinched to a pinhole. Yeah. And I was in hell, dude. And I was in hell for a very, very long time, for years. And what that latent mental illness was OCD. And if you know someone who's had OCD, like severe OCD, I think they'll tell you it's hell too, right? Because what it's doing is it's taking your greatest fears and the things that are most tender to you in your own heart, in your life, and it is just stabbing them every minute, every second of every minute of every day. From the moment you wake up, tat, 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 just cutting into your heart over and over and over and over again. And for me, it wasn't for a week, it wasn't for months, it was for years, right? It was for years, and from every angle. And it was the soundtrack of my life. It was the way I saw everything in my life. It was through this lens of fear. And like I said, it wasn't just any fear. It was fear around the things that mattered most to me in my life. And that made living fucking hell. And you can look at, I could smile on the outside, but on the inside, I was screaming because I didn't know what to do. Right. I had no idea what to do. And when something attacks you at that level, the fear that's involved with that is that you don't want to look at it, right? Because what happens when you look at it, right? What could, the fear that's attacking you is about your character and who you are and the core of like what matters to you. And looking at that promises, finality, and finality can turn out against you, right? And so it just keeps on going. Right. And so that's where my story, I think how my story captures some of the complexity of this situation, right? Is that I don't think I'm alone in that. In fact, I know I'm not alone in that because I've known a lot of people that have done psychedelics and known a lot of people who have done psychedelic therapy, and they have had to go through similar things. And I feel very fortunate in that I feel like my story, at least so far, has a happy ending. Like I worked like a madman, like nothing I have ever worked on in my entire life on this particular thing, because the toxicity of the fear, George, is like, like what I had to do, or at least my experience of what shifted this for me was, so these things are coming up minute by minute for me every day, all the time. I'm not sleeping hardly at all. I'm like sleeping like 2.5 hours, 3 hours a night, broken sleep, right? Yeah. What I experienced that I had to do to get over this was the opposite. Every second that something came up, I had to redirect and do the opposite of what I wanted to do over and over again, like probably millions of times. I'm not counting, right? Probably millions of times, right? Because like I had taught myself to avoid. I had taught myself avoidance through through every algorithm in my behavior, right? Like, and this was like coming at me, and so and this was baked into everything I was doing. So I had to change that, 35 years of avoidance through years, literally years of doing the exact opposite. And that was so crazy. Like that was so hard, at least for me, man, that if I had told myself that is what I was going to have to do to get through this and to grow from it, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. Like that can't possibly be the solution. And maybe there's more elegant solutions. I'm not here. All I'll tell you is that that is what it was for me. That's what helped me. And now, the end result of this process for me was I love my life, dude. I love my life. And all those questions that were so like terrorizing to me, at least all the ones I'm aware of, I've answered those questions for me. Right. I've answered them like so many times, and that has created within me a deep peace and a love for my life. And that's the happy ending. Right. But I just know that that's not true for everybody. Right. And I don't know why that's not true for everybody. Maybe for some people, I don't know. Maybe it is their calling or whatever it is for there never to be another side. I can't say that that's what it is for everyone. All I can say is my own experience. But because I've had my experience, George,
Right.
I can say that this to me is kind of the core of what's missing. What I see personally is missing in a lot of psychedelic media is this experience, because this experience, I think, is probably at least a fair chunk of people's experiences when trying to deal with their shit with psychedelics and psychedelic therapy, right? It's just because it is so messy, it is so complicated. There's so many like pieces and parts and puzzles and phases and chapters and forward and backward and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's a very hard message to give to people, right? Because I wouldn't have listened to this message, right? If someone's like, okay, if you do this thing, it's probably going to be the hardest thing in your life. Everything about your life might change. There's no guarantee you're going to make it through it. Your brain chemistry is going to change, blah, blah, blah. Like if you gave me the whole download on this, I'd be like, what the fuck? Right? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
So, but that's so much to me the challenge of psychedelic media, right? And of what's going on here, because I think at least for me, what I feel like is like the only way that I can do this right is by like telling people all of that, like
Yeah.
telling people all that,
Yeah.
because then they have the ability to make a decision. And I think and I don't want to skew negative, because I'll be damned, right? Like a therapeutic MDMA experience is magic. It is magic. It can be magic, right? When I like heard and felt like my heart talking to me and explaining my life, or talking through my mind, who the fuck knows how it works?
Right.
When I heard that, dude, or when I like felt the fate, like the glorious fate of the moment, and you feel like you're on the razor's edge of time, and you're like, holy shit, like all of it is coming to this. And that's not, and then you speak out of that and it connects with other people and you're like, we're in it, right?
Yep.
You can say that feeling is a delusion, and I think sometimes there can be delusional ways that we can take it, but there are other ways in which that feeling is oh so very real and life-changing. So that's the balance, and that's what's so difficult to me about psychedelic media is like, it's hard to overstate how incredible psychedelic experiences are, isn't it? I mean, it's like, it's hard to overstate. It's not like you're coming back from something and you're bullshitting when you say you feel like you talk to God. Like I have felt in some of these experiences, George, like I've been to a spiritual world, right?
Yeah. Without a doubt.
It's like the holiest of holies within me. I have felt that I have been there, right? And so when you speak out of that, you sound like you're delusional. Like you sound to someone who has not, for whatever reason, had a similar experience. They're like, dude, you're delusional. So and you want to, and I think this is a big thing with me, man. It's like, I want to communicate that too. Cause it's like, dude, this really is a crazy, beautiful thing that everyone, I think, should have the right to choose about whether or not they want to have part of their experience.
Yep.
But what comes with that, right, is risk. What comes with that is danger, because at least how I understand it, man, it's like, I don't think you get one without the other, right? I don't think you get a genuine spirituality without a real sense of like things going sideways and remaining sideways. It's like, every time you like, every time someone jumps out of a plane, right?
Yeah.
And pulls the parachute, right? Sometimes that parachute is not going to open. That does happen, right? And you do enough jumps and you increase the risk of that happening, right? And so it's just like every like, some of the most extreme and powerful experiences that put you the most in touch with the impermanence and beauty in life, that whole bargain, part of that to me is also the risk of like you could come out of the other end like destroyed. That is possible, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a beautiful thing. And it isn't to me like to me that's not a critique of psychedelics. Not to say that they're perfect at all, but I'm just saying that in itself isn't a critique of psychedelics. That to me is evidence for how real they are as experiences and how non-fictitious they are, how non-fanciful they are, right? If all the ayahuasca and ibogaine and all these experiences that people were having, if everyone was able to come out, if there was no risk involved, right? I think that's even better argument that what we're dealing here are just realms of fantasy. But the fact that you can go into those things and you are definitely taking your psychology and your soul into your own hands, and there are near misses and sometimes fatal crashes, that is just that to me is evidence of the reality, right? And so that is what I felt kind of happened from my perspective, right? And being kind of like an obsessive follower of this thing in the background, that's kind of my perspective, is that like it's very, very hard to, especially from a marketing perspective, as someone who's trying to deliver a message, right? Truly, right? You're trying to deliver a message to people, like to deliver all of that to people is very, very difficult, because it becomes so muddled. It's like, I mean, dude, you write on social media all the time. If you included every caveat and nuance in a post, right? When you're like writing like the first line of your post, it'd be like a paragraph. People are like, what are you even talking about? Right. And so there's this crazy trade-off between accuracy and efficacy that communicators have to like be willing. That is the devil's dance that we have to be willing to do to be able to communicate, because no one's going to read my post if I write every complication, right? But if I take out too many complications, well, then I'm just lying. So how do you do it, right? You got to fuck around and find out. But I think it's part of what happened. That's part of what we're figuring out as in psychedelic media, right? And people that do this is like, well, how do you do this? Right? Because we want to communicate the fact that people can have life-changing experiences doing psychedelic therapy or doing psychedelics recreationally, where the fuck, right? Because they can, right? We want to communicate that there's all this power because there is, right? But on the other side, right, there's all these complications and difficulties, and people go through really, really, really hard shit, and some of them don't make it. And that is that's a tragedy that must be acknowledged. And so how we communicate that is I think this is, like I said, me and what I feel like that is what we're trying to learn. And I think one of the biggest obstacles we're going to have to overcome to like ethically change how psychedelics operate within society, right? Because we could do a con job and we could try to like squash all this stuff, and we could try to pretend like there are no side effects and pretend like this is the inerrant gospel. But it's not, and we could pretend like people can't get deluded on psychedelics, but they can. We could pretend a lot of things, right? But I don't think we want to do that, and that's that I don't think we want to do that, because I think part of what psychedelics can help you do is really appreciate the truth and the value of it, and how powerful it is to just like keep on pressing towards that ideal. And so that's what I feel like we're doing.
I love it, man. And you know what? Like, I don't think, my personal opinion is that psychedelics goes back in the bag, because there's no way to saddle certainty. You know what I mean by that? Like, and that's what science is trying to do. It's like, how do we make this certain? Can we take the experience away from the trip? Can we do it in a way that's safe? And the answer is no. There's no possible safe way to ever do psychedelics. It takes courage to do it. It takes a lot of courage to do it. And especially if you're going to do it for a prolonged time, you're going to do huge doses. But those are the things that are going to change your life in a way that no other experience can. Yes, there's a good chance you can come out of this thing more fucked up. That's just the facts. You could come out and be in a worse relationship. There it is. But you'll never, ever get a chance to become the very best version of yourself unless you have the courage to try it. And that's what psychedelics invites us to do. Mircea Eliade and all these mystics wrote about it so beautifully, the terror before the sacred. And you know exactly what I'm talking about when you're in the depths of a fucking deep trip and you're, holy shit, you're paralyzed in fear. And all of a sudden the answer comes to you in a way that's as frightening as it is beautiful. And that is where you get the meaning, because there's no words for that. There's no way to come out of that and describe that to people, but you feel it. And that feeling is the catalyst for change in your life and all your relationships. And you do have to do it alone on some level. Like there's no one can hold your hand. Like that you can sit with someone in a clinic, and for a lot of people, they may need that. But for the average person out there that wants to make their life better, I think the message is you got to do it alone. Like it's the only way. How are you going to change yourself? No one's going to change your life for you. Like you have to do it alone. And you can figure out your own way to do it. There's no right dosing schedule. There's the Federman there's all these different protocols. But at the end of the day, it's the Alex Detmering protocol or the George Monty protocol. We're going to find our own way. And that's what science is like. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You guys aren't qualified to do this. How many people are going to die? All this. Yep, that's coming. And like that to me is why it goes back in the bag. And on the other end of that, what I think is one of the most sinister things out there is the radical commercialization of it. You know, you have all these people that are setting up these schools and are promising, they're preaching like they're the authority on things. They're dressing up certification as qualification. They're setting up sales funnel and allowing people to come down that are half broken and have these small experiences. And then those people now think they're guides. Someone that goes to a year school, a 6 month, a 3-year school is not Gareth Moxie. They're not Dr. Mash. They're not a guide. You're not going to be a guide from going to one of these schools. And if you think you are, shame on you and the very people that are putting these things out. This is detrimental to the system. It's not a good thing for the system. And why are all the CEOs making tons of money and their students are coming out and can't even set up their own business? Like that is an issue. Commoditizing vulnerability is an issue. And when we do these things, we're running on some level. I think it's the divine trickster. Like, go ahead and try. Let's see what you guys can do here. Let me show you the ramifications of using psychedelics and sort of try to commodify something sacred. Like that to me is all these things we're talking about. Yes, we need an avenue for people that have real issues. And then there's already people for that, I think, on some level. Like you have Gareth Moxies out there. You have you have Dr. Jessica Rochester. There's all kinds of people out there that started off as an apprentice and are figuring out how to work with these substances. And they're using the old traditional ways of helping people move through them. And as far as media is concerned, I think what you're doing is amazing. You got the Parable Foundation coming out, and like you're doing real incredible work only because, Alex, you've been through it. There's something to be said about someone who goes through the experience that can help other people through it. And like that comes, like you said, you're working harder than you ever have before. Like now you have a mission, but it was that psychedelic journey that allowed you to have that insight. Once you go through something, and if you can look at tragedy as the ultimate gift of experience, like it's the language of experience that allows you to help other people get through that same thing. And I think that's what psychedelics are teaching us is that, look, you can talk all you want to, but until you've had this experience, you're not able to. It's an initiation. It's an ordeal. It's a tell me you're suffering and I will sit with you and help you work through it. But it takes courage, man. I know that's a lot to throw out there, but what are your thoughts?
Bro, so many things. I want to get back to the certification thing.
Okay.
Because I think it's an interesting discussion. I think it's a really interesting discussion. But I do agree, and I about the fact that this is an initiation.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So all I can do is all I can do with this is speak for myself.
Right.
But what I feel like, what I have gone through, right, is accepting responsibility of living my own life and making my own decisions. Like to move from trying to live life in such a way where I was kind of just protected from downside, and reducing risk, to living life in such a way where I was choosing where I wanted to go and accepting whatever downside and risks that came along with it. And in order to do that for me, I had to develop a trust in life and a trust in myself that I just did not have before, and only came for me through years, right?
Yes.
Like trust,
Yep.
it takes time, at least in my experience. Trust takes time, you know, and I have to be willing to put my money on myself.
Yep.
If if the chips are down and I'm in some kind of bad situation, I have to be able to trust myself that I can act, right? And trust my moral character and trust my vision, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't believe, at least for me, that didn't come through just me kind of like talking to myself with positive affirmations. That's actually part of it, you know, like changing how I'd speak to myself.
Inner dialogue.
But the biggest thing was just like the slow, quiet things that I've never told anyone that I've done. And just the part in me watching me do those things and seeing like why I was doing something, and what happened after.
Yeah.
Right? Like, instead of being like someone says something to me that may be challenging to my perception of myself and what I imagine other people are perceiving in myself. And instead of responding, I just allow that to sit and evaporate. Right? What happens when I do that? That's like a small kind of minor thing, right? Someone says like, yeah, Alex, but you suck at this. Right. And instead of, some criticism, someone says,
Yeah,
right?
I'm with you.
Instead, or someone has like a legit like beef with me about something, but I can't fix it right now. So I have to accept the fact that they're just going to think ill of me, and I care about their opinion.
Yeah.
Right. Those kinds of things. Right. And then I decide to do something that other people don't know that I've done, which is like, let it go. But just let it go. Right. And you do that a bunch of times. And what I discovered through that, George, was I was like, oh, I'm stronger than I think that I am. Right. That calamity that I was going to try to control the downside risk for, which is, because this person criticized me, therefore people are going to think ill of me. And that's all this reputation management game that can get in your brain. And dude, it's not like I'm like, oh my God, I'm beyond this. Right. Like, all I'm saying is that I've made steps. Right. And taking those, and so that reputation game, or the person thinking ill of me. And as I've noticed, I survived, right? I made a choice to not follow a previous strategy.
Yep.
I survived. Life didn't end. Life goes on. I actually feel okay. I notice that I feel okay. I feel stronger for having not said that. Right? There's a set of realizations that comes along with those tiny decisions that I have made, right? That slowly matures and cultivates this sense of inner strength and a sense of trust in life, right? There's a whole bunch of reasons why I in particular felt that life was kind of out to get me. And it took me so long to kind of seriously disabuse myself of that deep fear, right? A lot of it was just so many of these tiny things, dude. Thousands of mini decisions like this, right? Part of it was that. Part of it came through in psychedelic experiences, dude, where I had to get into the ickiest of the ick of like why I felt that way, why I felt that life was a betrayer, right? Part of it had to do with part of it had to do with religious stuff. Like I grew up Christian and I lost my faith in God. And that was something that I held so closely to me, dude. And losing that, right, is a soul level injury, right? When the love of God and a relationship with God is something that you hold to your heart, right? And then the reality to you of God disappears. There's the loss of a relationship, but then there's the loss of trust in yourself and anyone else.
Yes.
Right. And that is like that is like an epistemological sniper. Like bam, like you can no longer believe or trust fucking anything. Least of all yourself. Do you know why? Because you deluded yourself your whole life. You're a liar. Who are you going to believe now? Right? And that's not something, at least for me, right? That's not something I can like, I can't talk my way out of that. I have to live my way out of that.
Yep.
Right? Like I have to prove to myself that I have integrity and I'm having the best intentions as much as I possibly can over years. And then the smoke begins to clear. And then I feel that emerge. Right. And that whole process is so wild and wily and unpredictable and
Yes.
individual, right?
Yes.
Because
Without a doubt.
my maze is so individual, right? There, like I said, there's a religious thing, there's trauma stuff for me, there's all kinds of these things that are all interlocked in ways that I don't understand fully,
Yep.
right? Psychedelic
Yeah.
experiences gives you like these like glimpses into what appears to be an inner world that you're just kind of trying to like reverse engineer after that. You're like, well, I guess that's part of this part. And you definitely get insights, but then you also like don't really know because there's mechanics that are going on that are operating beyond your perception. Right.
Yes.
And so this whole thing, I believe, George, what we're talking about right now is part of what makes this so difficult to incorporate as part of any kind of medical thing that we're aware of currently. It because of its wiliness and its weirdness, because, you know, it might be the case that I need to have 2 years, that's at least it was for me. I need to have 2 years where everything's only getting worse. like what kind of like how do you write a protocol for that, right? How do you sit there as someone, as an observer, right, and watch someone go through that and say, well, he's on the right path. Shit, I didn't know I was on the right path at all. You know, so that process is a huge challenge, and it makes it makes it very hard to imagine how this is going to be part of the system as it is. I will say, I don't think all substances are created equal in this way, at least in general. And I think that there are more or less realistic. You know, I think personally, MDMA therapy probably could, or at least get closer to it. I think that you could probably, there's probably a lot of people with PTSD and a host of other things. Honestly, I hope they use MDMA therapy for OCD, because given my experience, OCD is such a toxic, fear-based situation, and MDMA teaches you that how to dance with that fear. But so I think that MDMA therapy, I can see that as conceivable. When we start to get to psilocybin and then LSD, and then as you kind of like march your way up, like the psychedelic ladder, those things to me become more difficult to imagine, because what I think we're asking more and more of people, I'm just saying this to myself, like we're asking people to have more and more faith and go more and more outside of anything they consider to be normal as you go that way. And that's just, it's just hard to imagine, right? Because it really is a different thing.
It sounds like the word that comes to mind is ordeal. You know, and when you start like an ordeal is something that you have to go through in order to fully become the best version of yourselves. And the ordeal happens in different ways, whether it's bipolar, or maybe losing a child, or OCD, or maybe you lose a marriage, or, the ordeal can come in your own specific maze. But I think it's imperative, and I'm curious to get your opinion on this. Do you have to it seems like you have to get stuck in that ordeal before the medicine really does the job of helping you. And I think the ordeal is part of the psychedelic journey. Maybe you have to go through 5 years of hell. Maybe you have to live till the age of 40, and that was practice. And now you get the medicine and you're like, oh shit. And now you can understand, oh, it was like a dagger stabbing my heart every single day. But you would never know what that's like unless you live through that hell. Even the Buddha himself had to walk through hell to get to where he is, to understand enlightenment. Like, it seems to me like so many of these these stories from like yourself and so many cool people I get to have on, they're talking a lot like the mystics of the medieval century. And like that seems to be something that is not congruent with science. Like science and mysticism sort of, decoupled back in that time right there. But I feel like they're coming back together. So what are your thoughts on having to go through the ordeal? Maybe the first 40 years or something like that. But is the ordeal necessary to thoroughly understand what it is you need to do in your life to become better?
Probably, but yeah, I'll just, for me, right. Um, I don't think there would have been a level, and I wonder what you would say to this, George.
Okay.
I don't think there would be. I was thinking about this actually. It's really funny. I was thinking about this just today. I was like, God damn, I was so lost. Like I was so lost, right? Like I was so lost. I was so lost for so long. And I was like, that sucks so bad. I was, man, and I know a lot of people have had it worse than me.
Yeah, of
I'll just
course.
say, but that was my experience. I was like, man, I was so lost and that sucked so bad. I was like, was that really necessary? Was it really necessary that I got that bad? And I thought about this, and the answer that came to me, and I wonder if it's the same for you, is that I don't know if there would have been the kind of self-respect that I feel for myself now. I don't know if I would have been able to have earned that had I not been as truly lost as I was, and you know, and found a way out. And when I say found a way out, I want to emphasize the fact that many things in my life broke in my favor, right? Like I had things work-wise. I had a wonderful like group of people that I worked with, and they were very accepting of me. And they like, dude, if it weren't for them, right, supporting me in the way that they did, I don't know that I would have made it through, right? I have a partner that stuck with me. If I hadn't had her, I don't know what I would have done, right? I had friends, dear, like multiple decade long friends, right, that were there for me like the entire time. Specifically, and they were just always there for me, right? And many people are not so lucky, and I am very lucky. So that is 100%. That is 100% part of this whole puzzle. I want to say that because that said, that said too, the depth of how lost I was, right? And just like scraping and grabbing and reading anything I could, and just like so confused and like didn't know, and had to go through the number of psychedelic experiences that I had to do, and then the amount of like stuff that I did afterwards, like between them, is also just like, it's kind of shocking, right? It wasn't like, oh, I had an experience and I saw and I realized that, oh, this is just fear. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I can practice this all the time. No, I had to, with at least my experience with fear, it's like you have to experience, I guess maybe this is just true of OC. I don't know, man, but you have to experience like every variation and facet of a fear, especially if it's core fear, and defeat it or move through it. So it's millions of versions, right? And tones and feelings and thoughts and all these kinds. It's millions of times, right? So just that sheer number of stuff is crazy. But to your question, right? Like the ordeal, right? I don't know. I would have the level of self-trust and solidness in myself had it not been for the severity of the ordeal and how confusing it got, right? And how in the worst moments that I had, right, like I saw that I survived and I moved through, and like I exercised agency. There was I'll tell you something, and I know I'm keeping some of this like vague. And the reason why I keep some of it vague, and this is actually part of the reason why I created Secret Wilderness, the podcast, is so that people cannot be vague, because some of the things that you experience in psychedelics are kind of reputational suicide, or just like things that like are so painful to you. They're so painful to you, right? To speak them with your name attached is almost impossible. But so I'll just say, like, there was the repressed memory that came up. It took me either 7 years or 6 years to have the strength to look at it. 6 years of 2 of the years we're straight up running from it, 2 to 3 years. And then the next 3 to 4, we're just like building up the courage and building up the skills to look at it. And then like, dude, it like emerged and it was the same fucking thing. And I was like, look, I'm looking at you. Right. And I looked at it and it was like, it like transformed. It is transformed from the source, the greatest pain in my life into the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And the only way that happened for me, and the feeling that you get when you make those choices in the depths of an experience or even in the smallest fucking decisions in life, is agency. I choose to be aware. And when you make that choice and you like then allow yourself to see what lies on the other side, like that feeling that you get about yourself is irreplaceable. It's like priceless, right? It's like, you know that you're fucking legit. And that I don't know how you get that. I don't know how you get that unless you are absolutely pushed to your wit's end.
Yeah.
And you see what you're made of. Man, so my question to you is that how you feel, right? Do you feel like the ordeal is necessary because the self-respect that you get after the ordeal is so powerful?
It's not only necessary, it's essential. It's essential. And I think that we talk about being lucky, and like we are lucky, you know, and there's plenty of people that don't make it back. But I believe with all of my heart that there's a divine intelligence that believes in you more than you'll ever believe in yourself. And it's constantly pushing you to make this choice of agency. And it will throw the situations at you your whole life until you pass that test. And as soon as that test is over, here comes another one. Here comes another one until it finds a test that you can't do because no one can. But that test is tailored directly to you. And you can run your whole life from these tests. But the minute you start fighting back, you're throwing a lifeline, whether it's a friend, it's a community member, it's an AA meeting, it's a stranger that walks by with a warm smile on their face and says good morning when no one's talked to you for a month. But these lifelines, they start showing up. And when you start becoming aware of them, they give you the courage to face the next test. And while the ordeal is incredibly painful, it's designed to be that way. It's designed to be impossible. That's part of it. And like when you start realizing that as you start coming through the ordeal, you know, maybe the initiation isn't walking through the flame, but understanding that you are the flame. But these are all really nuanced things that only happen once you start moving through these areas. You know, Eric Kaufman had a great sort of analogy where he talked about, I don't like the idea of a mask. I like the idea of my inner ancestors. And when I look back at this person where I might have been ashamed of, instead of being ashamed of that person, I get thankful because that version of George could never have done it, but he wanted to. He thought about it. He took the first step towards it. And because that version of George took the first steps, the next version of George that wanted to do these other things, he had a little bit more courage until you get to the person you are now. And now you are who you are because of who you were. And it's so hard to think about. And trust me, I get it. Like when your kids die and you fucking sit in depression, you're thinking about suicide and your wife and everybody thinks fucking dying. You're like, why me? Why? You curse God, you curse everything. And but it takes something in you to die in order for something to grow back. And I think if I could just put that message out there for everybody who finds themselves in the midst of the ordeal at this time, congratulations. I'm glad this dark thing's happening to you. And I mean that. And you'll understand it when you come through. Like, this is what's going to make you better. If you choose to get better, if you choose to have the courage to take the steps, a hand will reach out and start pulling you. On some of you got to do all the work, but like the ordeal, Alex, is what makes the individual become the best version of themselves. And on top of that, it's what creates a community. Because you went through this, you're searching for other people out there that have understood it. You got a sick podcast, man. You're doing great work. And the words that you say resonate with the people that need to hear it. Even if it's one person out there that hears one thing, you've reached that one person. And now that one person can reach 2 more people. And so these ordeals, they're not just the individual, they're the community ordeals. And it's happening bigger and bigger because we need to change more than ever. Everybody's just ruined from a system of oppression that is no longer serving us. And it gets back to the idea of psychedelics and language, the language we use. We don't really have the terms to describe what happens in a trips, but maybe what's happening is we're learning a new language. We're learning the language of experience. Maybe we forgot it, but I think that is the purpose of the ordeal on a few different levels. I want to shoot over to some questions. We got a lot of people chiming in over here, and they say, well, here we go. We got Jessica Monreal. Jessica, you are crushing. I see you everywhere right now, and I'm so stoked to get to hear your journey and all the things you're doing. You're going to be epic, and I really appreciate everything you're doing. She says, this is such a valuable conversation. Thank you both. I can't tell you how much I respect and appreciate people who are willing to not treat complex topics as binary. Everything has become so binary, good or bad only. You're an evangelist for it, or you curse it. No in between. I watch this over and over in the recovery community on the topic of 12-step programs, for instance. 12 steps, depending who you ask, is either the only real way to stay clean or a creepy, sick, brainwashed cult. No end. What are your thoughts on what Jesse has to say, Alex?
First of all, thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for the comment, and I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, I agree. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard to talk about things that you love honestly. I think is very hard because I think for so many people, psychedelics gave them credible hope when there was none, and they never thought there could be. Right. And that is part of why there is a religiosity, to be honest with you, to a lot of the psychedelic culture. It's because they have had religious experiences. Right. And but what's so hard with religiosity, and I grew up fundamentalist Christian.
Right.
I was a missionary in China for a while. I had so that's given me a lot of experience and understanding of just kind of how religious cultures work and their strengths and their weaknesses. And I think that one of the things, I'm just going to be real. I think one of the things that hopefully psychedelic culture can be progressively more and more careful about is the pitfalls of religiosity. Right. Because some of these experiences, like I said, like you really are kind of talking to God, or at least it appears so. You're really getting insights into your life. You're really feeling your own heart open up, and you're really seeing yourself in accurate ways. And it's not, part of it could be delusion, but all of it isn't, because you start acting out of these things and you take in real life, and your life can change for the better in like massive ways. I've totally experienced this. Right. So it's so difficult. Like, so there is such an authenticity to the spiritual nature of psychedelics and their power to help you help yourself. It's so hard. It's so hard to balance this with just because you're like, I want you to experience this magic too, man. Like, I see in you, the despair. I feel like I see in you the despair. I feel like I see within you a nihilism, right? That crushes your hope in life and your faith in yourself. Like that can be, I think, what can be felt. And what comes out of that is like, I remember myself feeling like that. And I remember what it meant to me to have a authentic experience of hope that then I used as a jumping off point to help me change my life. And so how do you communicate that with balance, right? How do you communicate that with balance? Because I think the fear is, well, every bit that I like share that seems like a critique is going to increase the chances that you're going to think what you're going to give yourself the out, right? And not feel enthused about it. And so it's so hard. But I think what I'm trying to learn how to do, George, is I'm trying to learn how to communicate both and hope that the chips, the chips will fall not only where they may, but where they should. Right?
Yes.
Like if someone hears the truth in the positives and they also hear the negatives and they choose that it's not for them, maybe it's not.
Yes.
Right?
Well said.
Just because people are so unique.
Yep.
Right? Like just like you were saying, like this came to me as a big part of my last experience, which was the most powerful I've ever had. And it was a very simple thing, man. It was a very simple thing. It was just like, people are unique. Like people are unique. And that at some level is like, oh yeah, just as that sinks in, right? Then first of all, there comes in such an abiding appreciation for the beauty of other people, because they guaranteed have secrets. You don't mean secrets in a negative way. I mean secrets in like a religious, spiritual, beautiful sense. They have things, they have messages within them that have been authored by no one but them. And so that gives them the ability to say something that no one has ever said, right? The feeling tones of their experience are unique. Respect, right? Like feel that, like that is true of people. Isn't that magic? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that something that makes every relationship a fucking gift from God? If we could but pay attention, right? So there's that level of the everybody's unique. And then the other level of it is like understanding and putting in, see me, this is funny, right? You can hear the, hopefully not unhinged, but definitely kind of enthusiastic. It's not, I believe in it, man, but it's the other part of this, right? Is that their maze, their truth, their doors and their locks and their keys are all theirs too, right? All of those things are all theirs too. And this is one of the reasons why when I write about this stuff, I try to use the word I a lot. And I don't try to use that, at least I'm sure sometimes it's arrogant. I'm a dude, I'm a fucking human, so I'm gonna make mistakes. But I think the heart of it is, George, because I'm just trying to share my experience as accurately as I can for and whoever gets benefit out of it can, because that's all it is, right? I try to, everything I say, I've tried to anchor it in a memory, in a thing that I've done specifically. I've done this. This has changed me. This has helped me. I realize this for real. Take it and leave it, but it's mine, right? And so that in my way is trying to honor the uniqueness of people, and just and that comes to this to the question of psychedelics and like how to advocate for them, is to realize that there are people in this world for whom it would do a disservice. It's not their path, for whom they're going to get it some other way, and that is not lesser, right? It's understandable. I think it feels to me like, well, how could it? Right? Like how could it be as insane as what I'm experiencing right now? Right? I'm rolling around in the fucking ground, right? And the inside of my being has turned into a corridor of the spiritual, right? And I'm feeling like whispers from some fucking thing that I cannot see, right? That is like, and it's like delivering these things that are like, my God, did Jesus write this? Like, where did this come from? Right? It's like, how could anyone ever, shouldn't everyone experience this? And the answer is no, because you know what? There is, at least this is my belief, right? There's no difference between the mythic and the mundane, right? That is an illusion, right? Someone can be in touch with that exact same spiritual reality without it being what that is. And instead it's a wordless exchange, right? Because there are mechanisms at work that we are unaware of. And so because of that, like because of the complexity of people and because of the complexity of the world, like that, my only logical response is to honor that and to hold that as sacred. And the way that I want to do that, right, is by telling the most truth, the most accurate, the representation of myself and anything that I write about that I can, because then that mess is life. And then that mess is theirs to decide what to do with.
I love that. You have such a beautiful way of communicating. And it's so, like, I can see you rolling around on the ground in the Cathedral of Christ. It's so beautiful, man. It's well done. It's well done. And it speaks to a level that's more than just words. Like, I think that the way you communicate has a sort of like image rich symbology about it. I think that's part of getting the message out there. Do you think that on some level psychedelics are changing the way we communicate? Like, I don't think I could do what I do now and without having the relationship I have with psychedelics. Sometimes, like, in the deep trips, when I see like these incredible, geometrical images, I'm like, dude, this is a language. Maybe it's my architecture of my brain changing and I'm seeing that or something along those lines. But it really helps me try and communicate in a way that's more meaningful. And you see these symbols, and all of a sudden you have this affinity for symbols after psychedelics, it seems like to me, and they speak so much to you on some level. You think it's changing the way we think or the way we communicate? And maybe that's part of the new awareness, right? Like, maybe that's the evolution of awareness in real time, hand in hand with psychedelics.
Oh, hell yeah. And here's a thought. Here's a thought here.
Okay.
I think this totally connects with the uniqueness thing, right?
Yeah.
Because language, like anything else, right? You can fall into patterns and modes, and this has worked before, so I'm going to adopt it and that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
The thing that psychedelics can put you in touch with is your own uniqueness, and then the logical extension of that as a part of who you are is how you dress, is how you act in the world, it's how you speak. Right. Yeah. And writing and speaking to me is so cool because that's my love. I love it. I fucking love it, dude. I love finding how to put something in such a way so that the person hears it, they feel it, and they see it. Right. That's
yes.
And I am totally a noob. But it doesn't really matter because I love it, right? Yeah. I love it. I love the problem, and that's to go on a tangent right here for maybe a little bit, and for whatever it's worth. I think people love problems. I think people love problems. I think we make problems out of problems, and they're not a problem, right? Like, it's so funny, Like, what is a video game? It is an opt-in problem. It's an opt-in set of problems, right? And like the video games that people that tend to get most attached to are the video games that are the most like life, And it's like, well, that is life, right? That is life. But then there's two big things that kept me from recognizing how much of a deep game life appears to be. I'm not gonna say it is, but how much of a deep game life appears to be. One is that when you're playing a video game, just like when you're watching an action hero during like the fight scene or when he's down, right? Or she or whatever, you don't feel the feeling that they're feeling when they're going through it. You instead are aside and are kind of like pacified by the certainty that good will win, right? But if you were that person, right, and you were feeling that feeling, you'd feel differently. You'd feel like you feel during a crisis, right? Yeah. And so I think there's two lessons for me in that, right? One is that, well, shit, I actually love this because I elect to watch movies where people work through problems. I have elected to play video games where all I do is work through problems, right? That is what I inherently like to do. One of the main blockers to that, however, is that I just don't know how to be with my feelings as I do what it is that I want to do. It's not that the thing itself is so much the problem. It's the learning how to be with the thing. And so that's like the one thing. The other thing that I think is really different, and is part of what comes into that trust conversation that we talked about, is like when you play a video game, you're not particularly worried that the rules of the game are built to play against you. You think that the rules of the game allow for a solution, right? And so that gives you a sense of like playing the game. There's an optimism to playing a video game, right? Because you know, it's not built to be unsolvable. It's built to be hard most of the time, but not unsolvable. Life can definitely feel differently, especially if you have a lot of trauma, right? Life can feel like a cruel and terrible game. And it can feel like that for a long time, for years, even as you begin to crawl your way out of that belief and that feeling. So I feel that, right? And I've only dealt with that to the degree that I've been burdened with my own pain and my own things, right?
Sure.
Which I have been, right? But there have been people that have been burdened with things that are multiple times worse than what I have to say, right? Or what I've lived. But I would say that's another big thing. But if I wish, you know, if I could communicate, if one of the biggest things I would hope to communicate, you know, to the people in my life, or I try to communicate to people in my life, anyone I meet, is that like life is actually really awesome. Like life is really awesome, and life seems to be the thing that you want. Like the ordeal that you go through, like it feels precisely icky in all of the ways that you do not want to feel icky. Like it is like this thing and this fucking, oh my God, it is the worst feeling. And like, it is like everything that disgusts you and terrifies you. It is all those things, right? It's like a fucking puzzle built for you.
Totally.
And then there's a shift that occurred for me over time, realizing what that feeling meant. That feeling, it is a sign of the path, of the thing to the thing that's next, the thing to the next challenge, right? And the feeling that comes with it is God damn it, Adam.
Leave it to Adam over there, right?
Yeah, dude. No, and that feeling of impossible that comes along with this stuff, right? That I can never, and all that kind of stuff isn't a reality of like life is unbeatable. It's the feeling of coming into contact with the belief that I had that it wasn't possible. And that feeling then becomes a sign for me. Oh, it's like, no. This is the opportunity. It's opportunity.
Right. It's beautiful. It's all of a sudden you've beat the, you know, level 5 boss. For me, you know what it was for me? For me, it was like King Hippo in Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Like I just couldn't figure out how to hit that guy. You know, I know I'm naming putting my date out here, but that was an old school Nintendo game for people that don't know. But it is sort of like a game that's built directly for you. And if you give up when you're up against the boss, you'll never knock him out, you know. And I love the way you put the word ickiness on it, because each one of our ordeals seems to be the thing you don't want to face. But it goes back to what you said about life being beautiful. How does it feel when you overcome that thing that was unsurmountable? Like there's a great book called The Obstacle is the Way, where he gets into all of these ideas about it's the thing that you're afraid of that you should run towards. And I think on so many levels, society tells us to run away to be safe. And this gets us all the way back to the beginning of the conversation, where we're obsessed with safety. Like, you got to be safe. You got to put on this. We got to be safe. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't happen? You know, and there's so much happening in the world of psychedelics that I feel is rewilding the mind. You know, it's like we're kind of getting back to this rewilding, you know, and you even see it in some of like the nature articles or the nature conservatories. We're like, we got to rewild this area. I think that's what's happening to us through psychedelics, is like we're beginning to be rewild in a way. And that can be scary to authority. That can be scary to power structures. That can be scary to your community. It can be scary to your family. But ultimately, man, I've gone through it, and it scares the shit out of me. Like, oh my God, you know, you start realizing you're dangerous. What does it mean when you realize for the first time that you're a dangerous person? Whoa, for me, I was like, holy shit, I don't want to be dangerous. Like, I don't want to scare people, you know, but you have to. Like, that's what you are as a human being. In order to accomplish what you want to accomplish, you got to be frightening to other people. Otherwise, you know, is that too much to say? What are your thoughts?
Uh, no, no, no. I mean, this is no. I don't. There's a man. I mean, uh, a couple things. I want us to because you a lot of. I mean, first of all, rewilding the mind is 10 out of 10. I don't know if you made that up, but
I read it somewhere. It's not
it's
mine.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. It's great. Yeah, dude. I think uh what a lot of us have kind of, at least me, I'll say, get hypnotized into just like making our lives as risk-free
Yes.
as possible, because there is an inability to like, once for me, speaking for myself, an inability to tolerate the feeling of uncertainty,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
I don't think we're taught in any formal way how to deal with that feeling or the emotional skills involved with being with and working with that feeling. But to me, it's as essential as almost anything in life is the ability to be with that. Like I think we informally teach these things through sports and some sports psychology, a bit, right? But we're so so much of the mechanism of education is built around conceptual understanding.
Mm.
Right, you got to learn
Yeah.
calculus and history and all these kinds of, and all of that is amazing, right? But I think the thing that keeps you from applying most of those things in your life, that like higher level thinking. I mean, we don't. How often do we solve problems as difficult as differential equations? Not that
Yeah.
often, right?
Right.
The problems that we're solving usually, at least at some level, are simpler at the kind of like the math of it, right?
Right.
But it's not the math of it that fucks us up so much. It's the feeling that we get and the pressure and the uncertainty that sits on us like a
Yes.
fucking gorilla, right? And it's just pressing down on us. And like I need to
Get
switch.
it
I need
off
to finish.
me.
Right? I'm like, because this feeling. What is this feeling? Right? What is the meaning of the feeling? Right? And we can't learn the meaning. At least for me, I can't learn the meaning of the feeling by someone telling me what this feeling means. Fuck, they don't know, right? The meaning of a feeling is something that I learn through experience directly, right? Because I won't believe everything that any wisdom fucking Eckhart Tolle says, which I love, by the way, but any wisdom that anyone says, right, to you kind of goes out the window as soon as the feeling gets bad enough, right? But if you can learn to be with that feeling, to sit and hold that feeling, to process that feeling over a long time, at least for me, very, very hard,
Yeah.
very, very hard to learn, then the other things in life are opened up, right? Then I can actually solve the problem because the mind will pull some kind of substitution when you put it under enough pressure.
Mm.
Instead of thinking about doing the thing that you want to do or accomplishing the goal that you want to accomplish, you think about getting it done. Why do you think about getting it done? Because you want to relieve the anxiety of what the task at hand, right? And so your mind starts shifting to completion versus results, right? Completion versus the goal. But once I've learned to handle that pressure and handle that feeling and sit with that feeling, well, then I can think more clearly. Fuck, what am I trying to do here? What's actually going on? Wait, hold on. My mind, I'm tricking myself. This is not the best route. This other route is. This is actually what I want to do, right? But I won't be able to know that's happening unless I'm able to hold and be with that feeling, because the emotional pressure of that is just going to automatically cause me to do that switcheroo.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. We got Adam chiming in here again. He says, Alex channeling Mr. Watts, the wisdom of insecurity. We got also Clint Kyles coming in over here. Clint says, I arrived late. So glad to see you two having a chat. Clint Kyles is an amazing, incredible podcaster. He's got the Psychedelic Christian podcast, of which you were on recently.
Yeah,
And since I'm bringing,
that's awesome.
he's got such a beautiful delivery, and he's got a presence about him too. Like when you sit down and talk to him, like I can feel the weight of like just his presence there. And of course, Adam Mizo is a wizard. Like this guy is one of the most intelligent people, the funnest people to talk to, and he knows so much about so much incredible things. Adam, I'm stoked on you, brother. Thank you for being here. So I do have some lightning round questions for you, Alex. So let's see what you
Far
got
away.
here. Okay. Let me scroll down. We got people coming in. Okay. What's the most dangerous idea you've ever loved?
Oh my God, dude.
So much for a lightning round, right?
Okay, here we go. Loved. Okay, this is a great one.
They're all been great so far. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you've been asking great questions, dude. I really appreciate. And dude, I want to say before we get into this lightning round, your energy is awesome. Your energy is fucking awesome, and it seems pretty clear to me. I've only known you for a bit, so but it seems clear to me that all you're trying to do, or at least for the most part, you're trying to do, is just lift people up and build something, and it seems to come from your heart. And I want to say, fuck yeah, dude. Thank you. That's so humble and so thankless. And I think it's amazing. And I deeply appreciate it.
Man, thank you for seeing it. I want everyone who might be where I was a few years ago to get where I am faster with no roadblocks. I used to sit around and be like, how come no one's calling me and offering me opportunities? And then I'm like, Gandhi, be the change you want to see. Maybe I should be reaching out to people and trying to give them opportunities. You know what I mean? And I think if you just follow some of those things, and another good one for people to have when you have nothing else is this mantra of, I have everything I need. Like that served me so well, Alex, in so many dark spots. Like I have everything I need. You know, all the things just fall away. Like the relationship, like all the crap that's going on through your life. If you just say to yourself, I have everything I need, just watch the clarity begin to unfold. I got to plug in my computer, but I'll kick it back to you. I think we were talking about the dangerous idea that you love.
Yeah. Okay. So should I wait, George?
Go ahead right now.
Okay. So the most dangerous idea that I loved, you just asked me some freaking just gonna get me radioactive questions. The most dangerous idea I loved was anarcho-capitalism. That's the most dangerous idea that I loved. So after I stopped being a Christian, I think I was looking for a new world explainer kind of level thing, right? And what I fell into was kind of like this libertarian like view that like society was self-organizing if the right incentives were in place, and the market systems are very beautiful and elegant at solving solutions, and actually a lot of these things are interfering with that mechanism working, and like society really whenever if you're not trying to solve things through cooperation, which is in their minds the fundamental the glue of the market system, is like mutual benefit. We can get, and I think there's a little bit of a brilliance there, and underappreciated brilliance to kind of at least how it seems that at least some like capitalism works, where it's like the reason an exchange occurs a lot of times is because wealth is subjective. And so when someone gives you something and you give them something, the reason that you're actually wanting to make that change is because they believe that they're better off after the exchange, and you do too. And so both of you perceive like, and because wealth is subjective, and we can get into why that is, but it's like a 1-minute conversation. It's like, how valuable is a water bottle? It depends on if you're in a desert or if you're in New York City, right? So this is kind of this beauty. I think this beauty and elegance to this idea that like people can actually that wealth is not like a zero-sum game, and that everyone can get wealthier because they can perceive it to be so, based on people trading what they have for what they want, right? So I really fell in love with this, and like kind of made it into like, and so because I made it into my like kind of new idea of how the world works, and got really into anarcho-capitalist ways of thinking about things. There should be no government and all this kind of stuff, right? And that's probably the most controversial or dangerous idea that I fell in love with. It's dangerous because I wouldn't say it's a dangerous idea. I mean, it is kind of a dangerous idea, but because there is legitimate, awesome insight to it. And so anarcho-capitalism is the idea that there should be no governments and everyone's just trading with each other and all that kind of stuff, right? Then everyone will be peaceful then, because governments are built on violence and all this kind of stuff. The danger with it is, I think, the danger of many ideas, and that is that ideas can appear to you to be 100% correct, and you can create all these thoughts in your mind of why these ideas are not working in reality because of this, because of that. It wasn't until, because if you look at our anarcho-capitalism, how many anarcho-capitalist places are there in the world? There's like fucking 2, right? Like some place in like Spain or some shit, it's like the most random places, that just, and you can like point to those examples, like, see, if only, we were like this tiny village in Spain that has no government. And it's like, you can play that game with yourself, right? But ultimately, reality is the arbiter of what works and what doesn't. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't dream or have visions or try to make things that aren't real. But what it taught me, and how I learned this, George, is through getting my ass kicked in business, right? Like, where I was like, oh man, this is such a great idea. And you tried it, and then the idea just doesn't fucking work. And it seems you're like, it should work, right? And I can create this whole thing of like, well, then the world is evil, right?
Ah,
And,
totally.
it's like, oh, the reason why is because my ideas are great and the world is wrong. And it's like, you could play that game too.
Yeah.
You're not going to get far. You're not going to get far, right? So I just got my butt kicked a lot, and then I realized this is something that this took me years, and I'm still learning it. Right, it took me years of this kind of ass kicking to just appreciate the reality of reality, right? Of like, no, it doesn't work, and like, and what I realized through that is like, it's not that like I know the right thing if I could just apply it. Right. Applying it is how you know the right thing. You think you know the right thing until you apply it. You apply it, then you find out, right? You fuck around and you find out, right? And so that just really helped. That just really helped me a lot with just, at least me personally, of just my opinions on things, because I just felt like, okay, like I don't really know shit about shit until I like get my hands dirty and actually try to do something, right? And then the truth emerges. So that's my answer. Sorry, that was long.
No, it's a beautiful answer. It's so true to get to see it back to the language of experience. Let me see what else I got coming in here. Okay, when the noise fades, what's the one truth about creativity you wish everyone could feel deep in their bones?
Creativity?
Yeah.
It's a mix, man. I think it's a mix. I think what I mean by that is that I think creativity is a mix of opening yourself up and also applying discipline and analytical rigor. I think it's a mix, and I think it's a mix. Like all these things are hard. They're hard to hold two truths,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But that's how I feel. I'll just put it in the context of writing, okay? Because that's the main thing that I know. Like the cool thing about writing to me, George, and one of the things I love it, I fucking love it, right? Is because to write you have to channel, to write you have to analyze. You have to do both, and it's like this dance, and you learn this discretion because you write from your heart and you channel, and then you come back and then you have to kind of like cut and like think and cut and think and move and cut and think and move and like all this kind of stuff, right? And one will kind of, if you're just channeling, it's too much. If you're just analyzing, there's nothing. You're not sharing anything. And now pure analysis is just a knife, right? It's not a brush, right? But if you just go wild with a brush, you're not. So it's like this whole thing, right? And so I think to me, one thing I'd hope people to understand about creativity, at least this is like what little I know, is that it's like, it is an art, it's a science, it's a love, and it's also a math, right? It's like there's all this kind of thing to it, and it's both those things, and that's okay, right? And I think people tend, I think at least I have tended to fall into one school or the other, trying to find my salvation. This is a recurring pattern for me, and what I've kind of learned is that it's a bit of both. So there you go.
It's a beautiful idea. Alex, I feel like our conversation is just getting warmed up, man. I got a hard out coming up, and I should have blocked off like 3 hours because I feel like I got a ton more questions. So you'll have to come back on, man, and we'll do another. We should get Adam. We should get more people in this panel. I know I told you earlier we're gonna do some panels coming up. I would love to have you come back, man, and we'll be talking more off the line. So, but before I land this plane completely, man, where can people find you? What do you got coming up, and what are you excited about?
Okay. Yeah. So I write all the time on LinkedIn, where many psychedelic people, for some crazy reason, we've ended up on LinkedIn. And how that works, I don't know. It's kind of like some kind of cosmic joke, I think. So you can find me on LinkedIn. To search Alex Detmering, and you'll find me. But I post podcast episodes there too. But the podcast you can find at parablefoundation.substack.com. And that the podcast itself is Secret Wilderness. Every episode is published there. I prefer if you want to subscribe there, because I'll send you a little newsletter every 2 weeks, because we publish every 2 weeks. And then you can also just subscribe to the podcast Secret Wilderness on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome.
What am I excited about? Oh yeah.
Yes.
Dude, are you going to Psychedelic Science 2025?
Yes, I'll be there, brother. I will be there. I can't wait to see you there, man.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Let's do it, man. That's what I'm pumped about. I am so pumped about this. I hope I'm going to contain it, right? But my excitement is large. There you go.
It's going to be so much fun. There's so many incredible individuals that are going to be there. There's so many cool relationships to be made, and there's so much nuanced information on all sides of it. And I'm excited to explore all the different ideas and just see the cool people there that are really kind of living their dream and trying to make the best versions of themselves and trying to build a better future for everybody else out there. So hang on briefly afterwards, Alex. To everybody from the sound of my voice and everybody that participated today, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it, and I hope you have a beautiful day. That's all we got, ladies and gentlemen. Aloha.